Hey folks, this is Rebel Rousing Rich Bergeron.
And it's the tornado himself, Tony Pennica.
And if we're lucky, we'll get Taxman Tom, otherwise known as Psychic Tom, on the broadcast a little bit later. And we're working on the second week here, trying to get a hold of our buddy from South Africa, who is Francois the White Buffalo Botha. And I typed in his official number to Skype with the country code and everything, and about $10 worth of Skype credit, so we don't have to worry about patching in with my cell phone through Facebook call, because I don't even know if that was able to connect. But, you know, Skype never fails, unless you don't have a good connection.
Right.
Remember the old days.
Literally, I'm sitting at my computer right now, 2 minutes into our phone call. My computer crashed. My computer's almost 9 years old, you know, and they're like, it's almost like last year before the whole pandemic hit. I went to Best Buy to see if they could, you know, maybe help me with, removing some viruses and some malware and all that. They're like, we recommend you get another computer. And I'm like, well, I don't really have time for that right now. And then the pandemic hit, so then I really didn't have time for it. But every so often it will just crash. It'll just say, we're doing a memory dump, and it'll just shut down. That just happened.
Yeah.
So I am rebooting as we speak.
Well, the big boxing issue or story, I guess, is upcoming Saturday the 23rd. USA Showtime. Couple co-main event and the main event are Somebody's O's Gotta Go fights up in Uncasville, Connecticut at Mohegan Sun. We got Angelo Leo, 20-0, against Stephen Fulton, who's 18-0. And it's for the WBO World Super Bantamweight title. I know I've seen these guys' names before, but...
Well, I mean, I don't know him personally, but I know Stephen Fulton. He's a Philly kid. A couple times. And he had a really impressive fight just about a year ago. I think it was a year ago this weekend. I think it might have been at Madison Square Garden. It was up in New York. And he was fighting a very capable opponent. And the fight got kind of dirty, and the guy picked Fulton up and actually gave him a body slam. And my friend Simon Carr, a former guest, was there in the crowd, like in the third row, in this bright-ass banana-looking yellow shirt. And Simon got up and was throwing a fit. I'm sitting there, I give this great analysis of the fight, and then I'm like, boy, Rich doesn't have anything to say about it. I really
Tom?
Is that Tom?
Tom is
yes,
with
sir.
us.
Well, my analysis got, wiped out.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
All right, well, start in with Simon Carr, because that's the last thing I heard. Body slamming somebody.
Okay, well, I was saying,
hold on.
Last year when I was watching the fight, I think it was a year ago this weekend, with Stephen Fulton, and it was fighting I think it was for like an interim title or a title eliminator, so he was fighting a very capable contender, and he got a little rough around like the third, fourth round, and the guy picked Fulton up and slammed him. Well, my friend Simon Carr, our former guest, was in the crowd, like, ringside in this bright-ass yellow shirt, and every two seconds, Simon would get up and he would throw a fit, about this foul. And I'm texting him, I'm like, damn, Simon, like, you're all over the world right now in that bright-ass banana-looking yellow shirt. You look like a big lemon. But, Simon was like, well, I got to do a foul, man. That was bullshit. And Simon got, all fired up. But so I don't know Stephen Fulton personally. I don't think I've ever had the pleasure of meeting him. But I have a lot of mutual contacts with him, from Philadelphia. And as I was saying, I think he has the same trainer that Julian Williams has, Stephen Breadman Edwards. But don't quote me on that, 100% sure.
Okay. Well, good thing we're not writing an article about this episode. Co-main event. Vic Pasilis. He's also undefeated, 16-0. against Rais Alim, who's 17-0. That's for the WBA Interim World Super Bantamweight title. And then we got almost undefeated duo on the third fight, lightweights. Rolando Romero, 12-0, fighting Justin Paldo, who's got one loss, 14-1. And that's for a title, the WBA Interim World Lightweight title. And I don't know if he's related to Shoney, another former guest of ours, but we have Sharon Carter here on the card. He's 11-3, fighting McJoe Arroyo, who's 18-3. I don't know. Not quite sure there. But that's a slow.
There's got to be a connection, Rich. There's got to be a connection there.
Yes.
That can't be coincidence.
Too close with names. It doesn't make any sense otherwise. All right. We also had a couple other stories. Oop. Got a bad connection here going on. Anyway. A couple other boxing stories before we get to the UFC stuff real quick, and then get the White Buffalo, on the show. Ryan Garcia, another one of those fighters wanting to cross over to MMA now, says he's going to retire from boxing at 26, then go into MMA.
Wow, and what is he now, like 21, 22?
22-year-old, yes. He says, if they say, okay, you've beaten everybody in the ring, and somebody goes, this ain't real fighting is legs, choking, submissions, and all that, Garcia said, guess what I'll do? I'll go prove to them that I'm the best fighter all around in the world. I'm talking about hands, I'm talking about wrestling. I will go to MMA to prove a point that God is greatest, and I'll go beat everybody. Whoever it is in MMA they say I won't beat. If it has to be Conor McGregor, I will. And I'm not saying this to get money. I don't care about money. I'm saying this just because it's how I feel. So there it is.
That's quite a confident young man. He said he's going to take out Tank Davis in the second round. Promised that. So
wow, that a big statement there.
You bet it is. That's gigantic. I mean, that's all he does. Not just called a knockout, but called for the round and against devastating.
An undefeated devastating puncher.
Yes. So all I can say is his brand is red hot. I'll be watching.
He has put on great fights. I was actually talking to one of the boxing colleagues from my old gym. We were communicating on Facebook yesterday, and we were just talking about the way it used to be and the way it is now. Where you'd have contenders that would legitimately fight each other, and you don't see that much anymore. Now it's like you got to have a title and everything's got to be set up a certain way and whatever. But the two fighters that he brought up were Virgil Ortiz Jr., an undefeated, tremendous prospect. I got to see him a couple years ago, and he took out a very durable Mauricio Herrera in 3 rounds, made Herrera look like he wasn't even in the ring. And matching him up with another extremely hot prospect out of Philadelphia, Jaron Boots Ennis. Now, Boots got a little bit of a, bad luck in his last fight where it was a technical draw and a headbutt where he was, first round, he was, fighting his normal way, looking great. And then clash of heads, the guy gets cut, fight gets stopped, no contest. But those are two legit prospects, highly skilled, great power. It might come down to who takes a better punch. When my friend Darryl had said something about it, I said, that's one that could, build into a trilogy almost because, they're so skilled that, any of the fights could go either way. It could be Zale Graziano. It could be Gotti Ward. A lot of, what was the one that was a 4-fighter a couple years ago? Israel Vasquez and Rafael Marquez. Great fights.
Right.
Potential right here.
Well, this is somebody used the word brand a little earlier in this conversation. This is a kind of funny one for BoxRec. They've got good old Sergey Kovalev on the cover there of BoxRec with the number one shirt on. BoxRec, I'm number one. But he's in trouble. He just had a failed drug test. Got a fight canceled January 30th. Between him and Bek Melakuziev. Right, butchering that. Failed a drug test because of banned substances. And of course, as they usually do, he comes out and says, I did not take anything I knew was tainted. Somebody gave me something and told me not to say anything. But
yeah, I understand it was testosterone replacement.
Oh, yeah. Makes sense. Here, take this.
Well, he's getting older.
Nothing bad in there. Don't worry about it. Be fine. Sergey. He was doing great till Andre Ward kind of knocked him down a couple pegs. And then...
And that first fight, it really could have went Kovalev's way. I mean, he was winning, he had Ward down, then Ward kind of figured him out. And, and then the second fight, Ward really, brought it to him. And they complained a low blow in there, but, I mean, I don't think he had anything left. It wouldn't have made a difference.
I don't think the second fight was super controversial, but you look at the end of the first fight, watch Ward's body as the decision was announced.
Yeah. Well, we got to talk about UFC now, but one more boxing story. Actually, I don't want to neglect.
I'm shocked he was.
The WBC has announced now that old Floyd is going to get his little picture on the belt now, on the world title belt. So
That's nice.
it's kind of cool for old Floyd. But we'll have to talk about the other Floyd fight still coming up later on. Logan Paul. But also Conor McGregor fighting Manny Pacquiao is pretty much set in stone now, even without him having to win this next one in the UFC. But they're talking about it more and more. But unfortunately, my well wishes for Mr. Calvin Kattar did not quite pan out this weekend on the big UFC card.
Wow.
Poor guy.
He showed he was tough.
Oh, yeah, he did.
He showed he'd take a beating, but everybody's tough. You don't want to take a beating. I don't know, Rich. Would you have sent him out for the fifth round if you're...
Well, see, okay,
say so about it?
If you're cornering somebody in that situation, and he comes back after that fourth round in that condition, the first question, not the first command you give him, the first question you ask is, how you doing? Are you all right? Can you continue? Just act like a referee, and maybe it's a situation where it was like Deontay Wilder. He told him he was going out on a shield, whatever, no matter what. But I don't care. I mean, if you see your own fighter, which is usually your friend in those situations too, you spend enough time with him, you just try to make sure he's all right before you send him back out there. You don't just give him instructions and ignore the fact that he's getting his butt whipped and has no chance. I mean, pretty much all they said was you need a finish, and I don't know.
I mean, I have never seen Holloway, and I've seen Max Holloway deliver world performances. Nothing like that. That was...
I posted it on Facebook. I'm not sure if Tony saw it, but I don't know. He probably didn't see this fight. It's MMA, but the movie Raging Bull, where Jake LaMotta's holding on to the rope, and the guy that plays Sugar Ray is just beating the ever living shit out of him. bleeding all over the place. He gets blood all over the front row. That's what that reminded me of, the last 2 rounds of this fight the other night between Max Holloway and Calvin Kattar. And it wasn't like Calvin wanted to get hit. That's the worst part. But
Max owned him.
Yeah.
I mean, he did everything. He could have went in and got a takedown and just played patty cake with him on the ground. I mean, he spin kick, stuff Max normally doesn't do. And in that 4th round, I was almost yelling for Dean to stop it.
Yeah.
I mean, he was...
Apparently he was very patient.
I mean, I just hate to see...
And very accurate, because whoever was keeping the punch stat numbers claimed that there was only 2 punches he threw in the entire fight that were not significant strikes. Or strikes, yeah. 2 strikes in the whole fight. Out of all the totals, all of them were significant. The only problem with Max is, I mean, if he had like a little bit more of a stand and pivot type of style, he could knock people out. But he has more of like a Stockton slap type of punch. And yeah, the quantity of punches, especially if they land and you're careful with them like he was the other night, the quantity is always going to win, but you're always going to have to go 5 rounds against pretty much anybody. I mean, Calvin's not a slouch by any means, but
no, but I mean, I'm saying...
You don't want to live your life and your career going 5-round fights every time when you're capable with your skills of knocking people out.
That's a good point, but I don't think it applied in this fight.
He couldn't knock him out. I mean, Jesus. Yeah. Couldn't do anything better. But as far as knockout power, that's why it reminded me of the of the Jake LaMotta situation, because first Max was just like kind of walking away, like all disrespectful and everything, celebrating. And then, like, something clicked in his head. He turned right the hell around and went over there and said something to Calvin, and Calvin said something back to him, and that's what I thought of. I thought of it was like, you didn't put me down. You didn't put me down.
I'll go down for no one.
Yeah. But, yeah, sad to see him get so much damage, like elbows, nose dislocated. Bad.
Everything. I mean, Max had all that was the science of 8 limbs. Like you said, elbows, knees, kicks,
I said
punches,
before the fight
body shots,
that Max has a tendency of leading with his face a lot, and he only clowned and did that at the end this time when he was well ahead and there was really no chance. But it was, in a lot of ways, disrespectful, obviously, but, he could have been trying to really.
Well, there was some disrespectful. There was some disrespectful talk before the fight too. You remember Calvin said, "Well, I'm a senior in college. He's the freshman." So.
Oh yeah.
Careful what you say.
That's where that came from. I was wondering. So I guess I didn't see that, the freshman stuff.
Yes.
Oh boy. Anyway.
And you don't say that about a world champion, the man who really can arguably be the world champion if it weren't for a very controversial decision, but that's another topic.
Yeah. And then the co-main event, I picked it right. It was about the only fight I got right. This was probably the hardest one to pick on FanDuel because all the underdogs won in the preliminary fights. Every single one of them.
Yeah. Yes, that was wild.
It's ridiculous. But anyway, Carlos Condit got the job done. It was a pretty brutal fight. Matt Brown hurt himself right off the bat with a takedown attempt. He hit the fence with his eye. It cracked his eye open. Started bleeding. So just kind of went downhill from there. He couldn't really use his wrestling as well as Carlos was doing. And Carlos had a couple jiu-jitsu tricks and, escapes and reversals and great wrestling of his own, but also had the better striking and smarter, game plan and strategy all around. It was just a great fight to watch, I think.
Yeah.
Unanimous
For me, it
decision.
was tough because I'm such a fan of both those guys.
Right.
But the right guy won. I don't know about 30-27. The first round was close, but the right guy.
And then a guy that impressed me the most reminded me of a giant Bruce Lee, and his last name is Lee, but L-I. Jing Liang Lee, beating up Santiago Ponzinibbio with just 35 seconds left in the first round. Knocked him out with a great punch, and an underdog, big time underdog. He was like an $8 on FanDuel.
I think your credit. Yeah, you nailed it.
Unbelievable.
Well, that was one heck of a counterpunch.
Yeah, and it's just his whole style. It's just very technical, but smart. You can tell he's a little bit green, but with more experience, he'll round out those edges. But great example of a up and coming guy.
I was very impressed with him. Santiago's no cheap date.
Nope. And then Joaquin Buckley, known around the world for the head kick knockout, gets head kick knocked out himself. Oh, just talk about reversal of fortunes. It reminds me of like the guy
the
that.
Italians are coming. Yeah.
It reminds me of not a specific guy, but like
that's right.
the guy who comes into the UFC. It's his first fight. He wins. He gets fight of the night bonus and everything, and then you never hear from him. He just loses everything else. He gets cut. That's his first flash in the pan. That was it. I hope that's not the story for Joaquin, but yeah, he got caught against Alessio Di Chirico.
And Rich, you realize there's a big feud between him and former guest James Kraut.
Oh boy, that's a fight. That'll be a good one. And then another guy I paid the good money for, Dusko Todorovic, was supposed to have a good fight against Punahele Soriano. And it started off as kind of like, I'll hunt you down and club you to death for Dusko. And Soriano just bided his time, did the old dancing move, waited for him to get a little winded, and then waited right in there and took care of business. It was pretty amazing. And then I didn't see any of the preliminaries. I don't have the ESPN Plus stuff, but we had a female fight. Jocelyn Edwards beating Yanan Wu. Carlos Felipe over Justin Tafa by split decision. That was a unanimous decision with Edwards. Ramazan Emaev over David Zawada by split decision. We have Vanessa Milo over Sarah Morass by unanimous decision. Now, Sarah was favored, but I don't know, I'd never really been impressed with her fighting style, so I was lucky enough to pick another underdog, Vanessa Milo, there. That was like my only two good picks on my card. I had Buckley, he lost. I had Todorovic, he lost. I think I had Tafa on one card. I think I could pick two cards, and none of them was that underdog heavy. Then the first fight of the night, Austin Lingo beating Jacob Kilburn by unanimous decision. The big one, we had one the other night, believe it or not. I didn't even know what was going on. Michael Chiesa beating Neil Magny by unanimous decision. I don't know how I missed that this was going on over on Fight Island last night, or inauguration night. Yeah, that's probably why I missed it. War Liao's beating Munir Lazez. It was a unanimous decision for Chiesa, by the way, over Magny. Warley won by TKO, 2 minutes and 35 seconds into round one. Isaac Villanueva beating Vinicius Moreira by knockout, 39 seconds into round two. Vivian Araujo beating Roxanne Modafferi by unanimous decision. Matt Schnell over Tyson Nam, by split decision. Lerone Murphy over Douglas Silva DeAndre by unanimous decision. I'm not going to go through all of these, but yeah, that's a pretty big card there. But the big one coming up this weekend: Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier, Part 2. And I don't know if he's mad or he's just being a little bit in the zone right now. But I saw a little bit of an interview with Dustin Poirier the other day, and he wasn't really disrespectful to the interviewer, but he was kind of like, don't waste my time. I'm just here to fight. So, I don't know. We're going to see how he does Saturday. He's got the loss against Conor from the last fight. And then a loss to Khabib. And really not a whole lot of other difficulties for a long time. He's been doing pretty damn good. But, when they were asking him questions, it was like, how do you think this is going to go at the press conference? And he's like, they're probably just going to ask a bunch of stupid questions. And he just seems like so angry.
Well, that's the deal. You got to deal with the press. You got to deal with them.
Yeah, he just seemed like so angry and determined to prove a point. But Conor is obviously the favored fighter.
That's what, when you think about it,
go ahead.
Right, but that's what ruined him the first time.
Yeah.
That he hated Conor so much, and he went out and got in a fight. Well, that's dangerous. I mean, you know the fight game. I mean, you can't go out there when they had a steam and anger and rage. I mean, it works in our fights maybe, or street fights, but not in the ring or the cage. No.
Well,
so that's not a good sign for him.
From the little bit of the background on this that I followed, Conor has been really devoting himself a lot to his boxing. Pretty much his whole camp this time has been a lot of boxing. So probably the best thing Poirier could do is try to out-wrestle him and pull a Khabib on him. Keep him against the fence and use the ground and pound. And I just don't think he's wanting to do that. He wants to just go out there and beat him at his own game, which is the big mistake with a guy like Conor McGregor.
Yeah, how'd that work out the first time?
So
now Poirier,
my neighbor asked me about this fight.
He was draining himself to get down to 145, and that fight changed, and he realized he couldn't starve himself. I guess he was so meticulous with his food, he was measuring the cups. I mean, a terrible way to live. So, any better, but I mean,
Conor McGregor is so in tune for this fight, he stopped drinking whiskey. Okay, so there. That's what I've heard, anyway. No, but I told my neighbor he bets on stuff like this. It's kind of a surprise to me one day when I was like, oh wow, he's liking all this stuff I put on Facebook about fighting, and never really told me he was that big of a fight fan. But just asked me the other day who I think's going to win that fight, and I said, well, I kind of got a feeling that Poirier could pull it out, but you never bet against Conor McGregor. I mean, that's what I kind of learned from watching him. You just never count him out.
Exactly, Rich. That's my sentiment. But unless Conor would be fighting a rematch with Magomedov, I'd have to go with him.
Yeah. So, I'm pretty sure he's going to get it done early, second, maybe third, maybe early third. But if Poirier is going to do it, he's probably going to get it done in the first. It's one of those. Got to get it done in the first 2 to 3 minutes. Knock him out or submit him, which probably might even be more likely for him to get a submission. But Conor's Conor could be in one of those situations where he's just going through the motions and thinking like, Mike Tyson, Buster Douglas situation where, oh yeah, I don't even really need to train that hard. But it looks like he did train, so we can't really say that he didn't train. But he could just have that ring rust issue where he's only had 40 seconds of fighting in 2 years, just about. That could be a problem. And now he wants to go from here straight into boxing, Manny Pacquiao. So he might be in that position where not only is ring rust affecting him, but he feels like he has to put in time in the cage and not just dispatch this guy in 30 seconds, even if he can. So that's going to be an interesting little aspect of this. Is he going to pull a Floyd Mayweather, and carry his opponent if he has to for a little while, just to get some time in? Who knows? But then Dustin Poirier's last opponent is in the co-main event. Dan Hooker, 20-9, fighting a newcomer to the UFC from Bellator, Michael Chandler, 21-5 there, and there's a lot of back and forth on this one. Actually, one of the experts from one of the sites I read is going with Chandler by decision. This is an interesting one, but I don't know. It's a toss-up to me. Coming from the smaller pond as the bigger fish, Michael Chandler is going to be very confident. He's going to think he's just as good in this league, and then he's going to think this is just one of their smaller guys. I should be fighting one of their champions. So I like him. I like him in this one, even though he's got a probably shorter reach and
yeah. So I think Chandler's wrestling advantage is going to be what it'll come down to, in my opinion.
And he's had a little bit of time off. Plenty of time to rest all his injuries and get where he needs to get physically. So I like him to win that one. I don't know about decision though. I think he can take him out. I think he can stop him before the third round. But we'll find out. Jessica Ai also on the card against Joanne Calderwood. Ai is 15-8. Calderwood 14-5. And we have Otman Azaitar 13-0 fighting Matt Frevola, who's 8-1-1. Marina Rodriguez 12-1-2 fighting Amanda Ribas 10-1. Nasrat Hakparas 12-3 fighting Arman Sarukian 15-2. Brad Tavares 17-6 fighting Antonio Carlos Jr., who's 10-4. Juliana Pena back 9-4 fighting Sarah McMahon 12-5. Marcin Prachnio 13-5 fighting Khalil Roundtree, who's 8-4. Mahmoud Muradov 24-6 fighting Andrew Sanchez, who's 12-5. Nick Lentz 30-11 with 2 draws fighting Mavzar Evloev, who's undefeated 13-0. And first fight of the night, Amir Albazi 13-1 fighting Zalgas Zumagulov, who is 13-4. Let's see. Sad news for combat sports with death of COVID at the age of 51. I don't remember watching this guy. I've probably seen one of his fights. I used to watch enough of them. Paul the Polar Bear of Varelans died from COVID at 51.
Varelans. Yeah, he was old school.
All right.
Way back in the early days.
And one of those unfortunate situations where they put him on a ventilator and he died. And it was interesting today that Fauci actually said...
Not only that, he did have a pre-existing condition. Yeah. I mean, I think he was about 400 pounds. He's a huge man. Even back when he was fighting, he was way over 300.
Yeah. Tough one.
If you would Google him, you could...
What was that, Tom? Say that again. You Google him what?
He was a very tough guy.
Oh.
He came along. Yeah, he came along at UFC 6, and his first fight was just an incredible slugfest. I mean, like, wow. And then his second fight was Tank Abbott, and that was quite an interesting fight too. And then he came back at UFC 7 and made it to the final. Remember, they did the tournament format back then.
Right.
And unfortunately for violence, he ran into Marco Huas, who just chopped him down. It was one of the most brutal displays of leg kicks I'd ever seen. But Violence hung on, won a few more fights. And he was called a trap fighter because he was from Alaska, so they were coming up with all these WWE, promotions. They called him a trap fighter. I don't think there's such a thing. But,
wow. We're going to try to wake the sleeping buffalo. Hopefully he's awake. Trying to patch in here to Francois.
You've reached Francois. Please leave a message.
Oh, no.
Thank you.
After trying to record your message, then press hash or hang up.
Francois, it's Rich from the Fight News Unlimited Combat Sports Show. Trying to get in touch with you here. We'll try again in a minute.
Hey, give him a minute. Maybe you didn't recognize the number. And maybe you'll see the message, then I'll pick up next time. You hope.
I had a feeling it might go south when I texted him yesterday. I gave him the 25-hour warning. And he says, okay, it will be good as it will be midday by us. And I'm pretty sure it's like 7 o'clock in the morning over there. When we're calling him now,
well, maybe he gets up really early, like 4 a.m.
And he thinks it's going to be midday. So,
what was it like? Floyd Mayweather would get up at like 2 in the morning and just go for like a 5-mile run.
Yeah.
And then get up at like 6 and go for another couple miles.
I should have said something like, I think it's a different time you're thinking of. All right, try again here.
You've reached Francois. Please leave a message. Thank you.
After trying to record your message, then press hash or hang up.
I'll look at this press hash.
All right, leave a message, Tony.
Okay. Francois, the tornado out of Philadelphia. We're hoping to interview you. I'm friends with one of your former opponents, and I'd love to talk to you about it. That's it. How you doing, message?
All right, we might have to enlist his buddy. Remember, I don't know if you've been following the Facebook post, but one of his friends from South Africa posted on there. If you have a problem getting him up, let me call him. He'll answer my number. I gotta find it. That was a few days ago. All right, well, I guess I don't have anything else to kind of fill the time except for looks like win or lose, Conor is definitely fighting Manny. So, how much money do you think it's going to make, and who wins? Obviously, Manny probably wins, but will it be entertaining, I guess, is the big question.
The Manny McGregor fight, I think, will be very entertaining. Like I said last week, I think it's, Mayweather neutralized him. He, got him to deep waters. He fought the wrong fight on purpose, because McGregor's limited boxing training, taught him what a orthodox fighter would do against southpaw. Mayweather did the opposite. Gave away the first few rounds and got him into deep waters, and he just drowned him. That's not what Pacquiao does. Pacquiao's not the guy that's going to drown you. He's going to douse gasoline in the ring and try to spit fire in the inferno. That's his style. That would make a fight with him and McGregor an interesting fight because it gives McGregor the puncher's chance, and but it also is would work well in the Pacquiao style as well because he does well against guys that are aggressive. Look at his fights with like Ricky Hatton. The fights that he hasn't looked as good in were the fights against guys like Mayweather or Marquez, who's a very skilled boxer. Who he did great against, Miguel Cotto, Antonio Margarito, guys like that, guys that that would sit there and try to bring the fight to him, and he would counter with his tremendous speed. So I think the fight would be very interesting because McGregor has power where he can potentially take Pacquiao out. Pacquiao's not going to be running from him, but at the same time, Pacquiao's going to sit there and let the guy come to him and let's trade and see who goes out first.
Oh, it'll be fun while it lasts, but I don't see it going the distance.
Oh, well, no, going the distance. I'll tell you, man, that's one of those ones where it's like you go to Vegas and see the odds are on a distance fight being like 100-1, and you drop like $10 on it, and you pray some miracle that it goes the distance.
Yeah.
Tom, did you see the email? I'm an internet meme now.
Yeah. And Bernie didn't look too happy. See the tornado.
I'm raising a shot, and the man won't even do a shot with me. It was funny. I have a guy. One of the guys that's on my Philly fan page will sometimes he'll do stuff like that. Where the one he did a couple of years ago, there was a tornado warning in Philadelphia, and they had the big thing on the news broadcast, tornado warning, whatever, and he actually photoshopped my picture on it. And I actually honestly thought the news put my picture on there. I was like, are you kidding me? He goes, I photoshopped that. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, because it looked that legit.
Well, I think there's when you can, when you need an image sometimes and you search for it, because I've done a few memes myself, there's a way you can get an invisible image, they call it, invisible background. So, I'm sure it's because it's been done so many times and because that image is always perfect of him in the chair and everything, there's got to be some image going around where you can just save it and it's the totally outlined, cropped image of him and you can just put it into any picture. Sometimes, if it's a famous enough one, that's what happens. It's very rare to find those. That's how much memeing is going through the roof, though. The younger generation here. I got a meme I'm going to be working on with the Democrats' wet dream with, A Few Good Men. And it's going to be Swalwell on the left side there as Tom Cruise. And then Trump in the general's outfit. They're going to be going, did you order the insurrection? Say, you're goddamn right I did. No, but the only way he testifies is if Rudy Giuliani advises him to. That'd be the only idiot that would. But it's I don't even think they're going to do it the way it's looking right now. Actually, it sounds like they might be jurisdictionally off base with the whole thing because of the he's already gone thing. But anyway.
Yeah, I don't think they will. Not. I mean, what would be the point of it, to be honest?
Yeah. Joe's got shit to do. He's busy. That's another meme I think would be great. Taking the guy from Office Space that was put in the basement.
Oh my God!
Have you seen my stapler? And be like, when the news media says Joe Biden's in the White House at work, this is what he's really doing. In the basement.
Oh my God, that's great.
See my stapler? All right. Anyway, White Buffalo time. Let's try him again. Gonna be 3 times the charm if we have to do this next week again.
Are you?
What happened?
All right.
At the tone, record your message. Then press hash or hang up.
I love that.
Instead of
You need
uh,
to pick these people with a message.
instead of both, I hung up on all of you guys. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess it's time to sign off because it doesn't look like we're gonna get them. If you guys want to just send me whatever questions you would have for him, maybe I'll do it one-on-one, like later today, and we'll add it to this for Saturday or Friday night. I'll get it posted.
Yeah.
And we'll go from there.
Okay. I'll send you. All right, guys.
Yeah.
Have a good night, guys. Thank you. Okay.
And then next week we'll get back on regular time. USA time.